And now, on Tartan TV Network, we are live with author and pioneer in the field of computer science, Herbert A. Simon. Mr. Simon is the recent recipient of the prestigious Turing Award for Innovation in the Computing Community. He joins us today on our show to tell us more about himself and some of his more recent work.
Mr. Simon, thank you so much for joining us today on Tartan TV. We're honored to have you here and discuss your work as well as some questions our viewers had for you.
No, really, Nico, thank you so much for having me. I always appreciate opportunities like this just to share about my work and answer any questions people might have.
I wanted to first congratulate you on recently having achieved the Turing Award for your work. That's an incredible accomplishment. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about what it means to you being named a Turing Award winner?
It means the world to me. I just hope that my work can have a broader impact through this recognition that I'm now receiving.
That's excellent. I'm sure it will. We'll get into more detail regarding the work that you've been doing a little later. To start things off, for the viewers that don't know very much about you outside of your research, do you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself, perhaps about where all this began for you?
Of course, I'd love to. I think as I look back on my life, it really does seem like this series of small coincidences that have led me to where I am today. Studying whatever it is I'm studying, I suppose.
Oh, that's funny. That's often how it seems, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. You're right. But a little bit about me. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and as I was growing up in my childhood, I developed this fierce passion for reading, and so I'd spend so much time at the local library, just going through any book that I could get my hands on. And ironically, at that library, the science department was extremely well stocked, and so that was really where my interest in the sciences and the human brain developed, I think. It was really the spark right there.
I find that so intriguing how something as simple as a well-stocked library department can eventually lead to a groundbreaking discoveries like yours.
No, that's it. Those are those coincidences I'm talking about. I think really the resounding theme as I look back on my research and my work, no matter the field, really there's this core motivation, and that's analyzing the complexity of the human mind and how we rationalize and make decisions is really at the core of all of my work.
That's great. I guess the computing community has that librarian to thank for all your recent contributions.
Yeah, I suppose it does, in a way.
Well, thank you for sharing. Moving forward though, I wanted to talk about the work you received the Turing Award for, of course.
Sure, absolutely.
It's written that you are being recognized for having made contributions to artificial intelligence, the psychology of human cognition, and list processing. Is it all right if we spend a little bit more time talking about each of these three?
Yeah, of course. And for the record, none of those are horribly complex subjects in and of themselves, but really the beauty lies in the uncommon approach that me and my team took, I think.
Let's start with your contributions to the field of AI. Some are already calling you the father of modern artificial intelligence. Do you think that's a reasonable title? And how does that make you feel?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I think there are a number of scientists and researchers before me who laid the groundwork for the research that I've been doing. But really, I think for me, I just understood that this field is way too significant to be approached with unstructured speculation. What it needed was a scientific, structured approach. Is really what made the biggest difference in my work.
Well, let's continue with a question submitted via email. This from a young man named Charles Edward. His parents, Dave and April, have both worked for the university for years. But this is from April, and she says, my son Charles, who's 14, has a question for Dr. Simon. What exactly makes heuristic programming unique, or any more valuable than normal programming?
So Charles is asking an excellent question, and it really drives to the heart of my work, I think. Because my goal for heuristic programming styles is to model the method of human thought using computers. And the idea behind this is that humans themselves rarely have the time or the information they need to make rationally optimal decisions, ever, almost, and yet we manage to make successful decisions all the time. And so the heuristic programming that I've developed is like a human thought processing, except it accepts satisfactory results rather than rationally optimal ones.
That's fascinating. And for our viewers who aren't aware, let's be very clear that you developed the concept of heuristic programming. This is not some long-standing academic field of study. You actually succeeded in constructing a number of programs that simulated human problem solving, correct?
Yes, we did. We managed to develop both the logic theorist in 55 and the general problem solver in 58. And the goal of both of those programs was to solve problems that they were presented with in the same way that a human might.
That's incredible. Next, we've got one of our viewers who called in with their own question for you. Henrietta, you've been very patient. You are now live with Dr. Simon.
Dr. Simon, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of your work. It's really unbelievable what you've managed to do. I wanted to ask why you've chosen a computer program to simulate human thought. Of all the forms of representation and modeling, why have you selected this one?
That's Henrietta calling in from Boise, Idaho.
So Henrietta, thank you. You're asking a really great question. And the fact is, I firmly believe that computer programs are the best method for developing and testing theories about psychology. We can actually write the code in such a way that allows us to treat the program as a theory and then test it accordingly. So that's really part of the beauty of computer programs. We can structure it, modify it, and then test it with any given concept.
Of course, a large part of the success you've had in your work is unique approaches like these to long-standing problems. You seem to be pioneering research in a variety of fields by incorporating a number of computing techniques.
Well, I think it's personally brutally clear that the most rapidly expanding area of scientific discovery is computer science, and I'm convinced that we aren't anywhere near close to reaching the full potential of scientific computing. It seems clear that our ability to construct similar simulative programs will only continue to grow as our computing abilities advance.
We don't have very much time left together, but I would like to briefly discuss the third part of your recent research, the development of list processing. It stands out to me how each of these research breakthroughs works hand in hand with each other, which I think is really brought together well by your innovative processing language. Tell us more about how you recognize the need for something like this and the significance of your language in particular.
Yeah, certainly. It really all began with understanding that we had this crucial model of heuristic programming, but what it lacked was a complementary language base that supported non-optimal heuristic problem solving. We immediately recognized that this language would require the capacity to simulate the very steps that the human brain performs in the process of decision making and problem solving.
So essentially you were faced with constructing the human brain in code.
I suppose so, in a really rudimentary way though. Essentially what we ended up constructing at its core was a very complex tree that was linked to a number of sublists. And the entire tree was connected both sequentially and associatively, because in reality that's how the human mind thinks. That's really what it ended up being. I hope that I boiled it down correctly. It's a bit complex.
No, of course, that was excellent. It strikes me as an incredible model, one which is simple at its core, but staggeringly complex to achieve. I suppose that is the beauty of the human mind.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Simon, I hate to cut our time short, but I'm sure you've got some more earth-shattering discoveries to get to. And our evening news is coming up soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, really, Nico. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on the show. It was my pleasure.